I would say acting is always gonna be my first love just because
Okay.
it's the thing it's almost like a marriage, right? Like, I've invested so much into this part of my life, and there's, like, a confidence and an expertise that comes with committing your life to something.
I love that.
Yeah, but at the same time, when I'm directing or writing, I fall in love with that too. So, I love it all. I love it all, but acting is my calling, like, signed, sealed, delivered.
Good day, filmmaker Victoria Blade of the award-winning Vicky Wakes Up and Alien Baby, which I also loved. Victoria, how are you today?
I'm doing well, busy, lots of meetings, happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here, and I am not surprised that Vicky Wakes Up won in that category. Were you able to see the other films or the episode? So, one in episodic content. Were you able to watch the other films? And do you have like ideas of, or were judges able to give you feedback of what set your Vicky Wakes Up above the other films?
Yeah, so I saw everything. I was really involved in the festival, and I wanted to see as much as possible as far as just
Okay,
trip and attending. So I went to as
of course.
much as I possibly could. I saw all of the episodes. They were so strong and so different. Such
Exactly.
a huge variety of themes and approaches. I actually just got off a call with Aaron, who made Cat and Nat, and they won best mention, honorable mention, and also a different award. They won 2 awards. We're actually
Wow.
chatting about doing something together, but yeah, I thought there was just so much talent, and as far as the jury stated at the ceremony, and they stated in, like, an official statement that I think what stood out to them was the deeper themes of sexism in the
Mm,
workplace, of the need to pursue our deeper dreams, and the positive vibe that music can
yeah.
bring when even when we're in really dark times.
And it's so and I can't wait to talk with you about it because it's so fantastic on so many levels. Hits into the surrealism, the music, the acting is truly fantastic. So, Victoria, how did you get started in filmmaking?
Yeah, I'm an actor, so I started out doing plays and musicals in Chicago, and I also started my first band in Chicago. So I started
Mm,
songwriting long time ago at the beginning of my career. And the transition into filmmaking didn't come until maybe 5, 6 years into my career when
okay.
I decided I really liked comedy and I wanted to package myself as a comedic actor. So that's why I made Alien Baby, and that was effective because I started getting cast in comedy. So I worked a lot of comedy. And then with Vicky Wakes Up, that was my second foray into directing, writing, producing, and that was really for similar reasons, like, I wanted to see this story on screen, and I started writing it during 2020 and was just inspired by, uh, the fact that, we can learn anything at any point. Just Vicky pivoting into this whole new level of self-awareness. I'm doing the same thing as a filmmaker. This industry is extremely vast in the amount of jobs that there are and the diversity of skills that you can acquire. So, I was just excited be to grow as a writer and a filmmaker.
So you weren't being cast, you were being cast in more dramatic roles, and how did you know that you had a comedy bent to your acting?
I knew because I started booking funny commercials, like, right away. So, I'm a classically trained
Interesting.
actor, like Shakespeare, Ibsen, all the classic works, that's the kinda stuff I was trained in.
Right,
Yeah, so I came out of acting school just thinking I was gonna be a dramatic actor because that's what I
right.
was taught, but what I learned really quickly is that it was easy for me to bring levity into the room, and that was something I didn't really know about myself until I started getting cast in funny commercials, and then it grew from there.
Huh. And was it something like acting school, they didn't like, I'm sure you in acting school, you do the whole gamut of skill sets, but it wasn't something that somebody you knew then?
I did a farce in college, so I did it's a play called Moon Over Buffalo, and it's a
Mm,
classic farce. It's classic, like, mistaken identities, in and out of doors all the time, physical jokes, slipping on banana
okay,
peels, type of thing.
right,
But it still was, like, classic American literature. It wasn't like it was new
right.
or improv or anything like that. It was still, like, extremely written.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you've written and directed 2 projects now. What why do you think more actors, especially classically trained actors, don't make that leap?
I coach actors as well, and I
Okay. Ooh,
I do tell people, if you don't want to write, don't do it.
right.
If you don't wanna
Yeah.
direct, if there's not something in you that really wants to do that, don't force yourself to do something you don't naturally want to do. So maybe it's
Yeah.
because a lot of people want to act, like, they want to be hired, given a script, and fit into the machine in that way, and there's nothing wrong with that, that's a beautiful job. For me personally, there's too much time waiting around. Even when you do have a successful acting career, you have a lot of free time. You have a lot of time on set where you're not necessarily in that shot, so you're sitting around for a long time. That's not personally I wanna be doing stuff all day long. So, even if I'm in
Okay.
my trailer and it's not my scene, I wanna have stuff that I'm working on, whether that's a script or editing, whatever it is. That's just my preference. I don't think every actor needs to go out and be a director.
Got it. So, one other thing I noticed, so a lot of and feel free to push back on this if you see things differently, but one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of people who are who expand from acting to directing haven't had as successful of an acting career as you have. Like, I feel like it's maybe they have 1 or 2 roles and they go into writing, directing, but I feel like you've put together, like, an extraordinarily successful acting career, a successful singing career, and then you went into directing. Was there a time, Victoria, where people would be like, I don't really see that." Was it hard to make that adjustment for other people to see you as something other than singer, actor?
Good question. I think the industry is becoming so dynamic and
Right. Mhm.
multi-hyphenates are becoming so extremely normal that
Okay.
I don't think there was any pushback or any, "Huh, why would you wanna do that?" Because the people my colleagues, the people I'm surrounded by, it's very common to do something like that.
Okay.
But I hear what you're saying as far as you have this acting career is moving, it's going,
Right.
and yeah, I
Right.
hear what you're saying. I think what's makes it a little unique for me is that I'm directing myself, right? I'm not trying to convince Marvel to let me helm the next Avengers or whatever. I'm directing things that are very much my world and my view and creating a universe that just for myself, that just extends beyond just in the acting world. It extends into a whole visual language.
I love that. And then casting, do you feel like you bring a specific eye because of your acting experience to casting in Vicky Wakes Up, that kind of thing? Like you brought like a specific lens because you've done so much acting?
It's interesting you ask. The casting process was actually fascinating for me because
Mm,
I've only cast 2 projects ever. But I've obviously done hundreds and hundreds of auditions, so it's really
right.
wild to be on the other side of the table, and here's what I learned. There are so many great actors, and it was
Right.
like an embarrassment of riches watching these audition tapes. There were so many good actors. It's like you could have chosen any of them, and it still would have been good, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I learned that, really as a director, you're sitting in such a privileged seat because there's so
Mm,
much talent and only one person gets the job. So, it gives you a nice perspective to be on that directing side that it's really not about did you do a good audition, it's really just only one
right.
person gets the job.
Do you think some of that came with your reputation though? Like, I imagine there's some people starting out as a director who don't have that reputation in the industry to be able to attract all those great actors to your projects. So that had to be part of it, right? Is like people wanted to work with you. And that always when I look at like films that get like bad reviews, but then I see great actors in it, I'm like, huh, maybe the critic is they're being too unkind to this film because those actors could work on any project and they chose that particular director to work on it. And so do you think there's some of that? Is that your sort of reputation has preceded you in the sense that actors knew that they'd be going into a good project to work with you?
Wow, I hope so. That's a really sweet perspective. I never thought of it that way. I hope so. Yeah, because I think it was clear from so as an actor, whenever you see filmmakers who are going to festivals and they're hiring a casting director and they're really putting their all behind a project, that's attractive to me. That's attractive to any
Right.
actor where you're like, "Oh, they have a plan for this project. They're not just
Right.
dicking around. They have a goal in
Exactly.
mind." So that definitely helps me when I'm auditioning for things. If I see that they've gone to festivals, if I see, yeah, that they've worked with Marvel, that they've worked with all these huge directors, definitely that's
Yeah.
inspiring because you see that person's hustling.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so do you have now that you've done so many things on a set, do you have a preference? If you're, like, got some downtime, are you writing? Are you directing? Are you acting? Do you have, "Oh, man, I wish I could just do more of this," or is it all just a different sort of feelings, like, there's it's like trying to tell which kid you love more, there's no way to say that, something like that?
Yeah, I would say acting is always gonna be my first love just because
Okay.
it's the thing it's almost like a marriage, right? Like, I've invested so much into this part of my life, and there's, like, a confidence and an expertise that comes with committing your life to something.
I love that.
Yeah, but at the same time, when I'm directing or writing, I fall in love with that too. So, I love it all. Yeah, I love it all, but acting is that is my calling, like, signed, sealed, delivered.
Do you have, like, other episodes already planned for it, or is that just you just submitted the pilot and then that's what won?
Yeah, so I started developing it a few years ago, and I
Right.
sketched out an outline for season 1, season 2, and even
Okay,
for the
awesome.
end of the series, so I see it as about 4 seasons, and so
Ooh,
the end of the series, I also know basically where it ends, and as far as season 1, I wrote out outlines for the season episodes. As far as writing an
okay,
actual full script, I just wrote the
sure.
pilot script, and then from that 30-page pilot script, I pared it down to 11 pages, and that is what we actually shot that won the best
Ooh,
episode.
okay.
Yeah.
And what would how would you best describe it? If somebody sits down to watch, what do you want them to feel, and how would you describe it?
It's if Pam Beesly from The Office slowly became a pop star. That's the show. It's like Pam Beesly, sweet little demure Pam. In this case, her name is Vicky, and as she's stuck in a job that doesn't really call to her talents, it doesn't really challenge
Yeah,
her in a way that's meaningful, and she's passed over by her boss who discounts her talent, and she starts to see basically her ideal self, who is this badass pop star version of her that starts to drop clues into Vicky's life of another potential road that she could go on her life.
I loved it so much. How did you decide upon, like, the surreal elements where she's breaking out into song? Was that sort of always part of it for you?
Yeah, so when I first started conceptualizing the show, I was watching a lot of music videos on YouTube with my husband, and during the pandemic, we would just have YouTube video nights where we would just watch all the
I love that.
inspiring music videos, and we're both musicians, we love music, so I was that was a light bulb moment for me is how do I incorporate fully produced original music videos with original songs into the narrative of a humdrum office life.
Do you feel like a lot of independent films don't do enough musically?
It does feel a little rare. I don't see a lot of films
Right.
I don't see a lot of films that talk about music in a very practical way, like in a relatable way. I see a lot of things that are
Exactly.
like rags to riches, like overnight success, even like That Thing You Do. Fucking awesome movie. I love that movie. But it's like a rags to riches, like
Right.
it's not like the drudgery and the commitment and the, discomfort that it actually takes to change your life.
I love that. That is a fantastic way to describe it. And then the cubicles. So for somebody who doesn't, I don't think you work in cubicles all day. Both Alien Baby and Vicky Wakes Up were like set in an office. Like, what about that experience calls out to you and was like, I need to make some films about being in cubicles?
I think that's a great question, and I think it's cool that you noticed that because I didn't even notice that. So I've had one office job in college for
Okay.
it was like 2 or 3 months. I worked in the Kalamazoo County Road Commission.
What?
I answered
Wow.
phones,
Okay.
and we got phone calls about potholes and tree branches that had fallen down, and it was so, like, boring. It was just so boring, and I remember that was the summer I started watching The Office, and I would pretend I was, like, in the office and there was, like, a camera there, and I was like a really good moment for me to be watching The Office. That was my one office job ever. And we would get, like, McDonald's Sundays at lunchtime, like, it was really depressing. But my husband went on to have an office job for 10 years. He
Okay.
Yeah, so he is really the inspiration for Vicky's office life. He felt
Okay.
so overlooked. He felt really undervalued by these companies that weren't even taking advantage of his creativity as a graphic designer. So the
Yeah.
whole that whole storyline is inspired by his struggle to find satisfaction in the office culture.
Yeah. And you star in the film. What is that experience like? Like, when you prepare, do you have 2 minds of it of, "Okay, I'm taking care of my acting part," so when you come to set, you're worried about everyone else, or you do it concurrently, like you're working on both at the same time?
By the time I get to set, I'm not thinking about acting anymore. All that
Okay.
work has been done, and I usually rehearse with my actors once before we get to a shoot day. So
Mm,
I've already rehearsed the scenes, I've already obviously memorized my lines and worked on the character, so by the time I get to set, I am not really thinking about acting because there's so many other things that I have to think about.
right.
The acting is becomes instinctual. I wish I had a little more time to think about it on set, but I'm just relying on my muscle memory and I'm relying on the confidence that I have in myself, so I'm not really trying too hard with the acting thing, if that makes sense. Because I've been doing it for
It
so long,
yeah.
my brain power is going towards, "Let's get the shot, let's make our day, let's have nobody get hurt." Yeah.
If an indie film director wanted to take on acting and they haven't acted before, what are your thoughts on that? Would you recommend it? Or would you say, "You know what? Why don't you leave that to a professional and not try to do it on your own?"
That's a great question because actually my favorite film that I saw at Slamdance was called
Okay.
Kenny Is My Boyfriend, and it was 2 non-actors that were the leads. They're directors.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're director, writers by trade, and they just had this idea. They're good friends, and they wanted to make this film together, and I loved it. Yeah, I would say, hell yeah, if you wanna get in front of the camera, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
I'm such a believer in you don't have to be trained to do stuff. Like,
Okay.
I'm a big believer in training can be great depending on what your goals are, but it's
Right.
not necessary. Yeah.
Do you feel like some of the and it's interesting because I imagine after winning, you're probably attending a lot of, like, pitch meetings for the series. How do you feel on, like, the casting elements of, "We need to have a YouTube star on there," and some of the pitches I see are, like, literally lists, like, the number of followers, like, people the cast have, and that has nothing to do with, like, actual acting talent. How do you feel about that element of things of, like influencers, for lack of a better word, encroaching on acting, especially just do it, but then you wind up with people that may not actually be good actors in projects.
Again, I feel like if you've got the talent and
Yeah.
you've got the platform and the audience, I don't think there's anything wrong with influencers crossing over into
Okay.
legitimate on-screen projects. I think if you've got the talent and the drive, go for it. Yeah, and it doesn't bother me, like, I'm not an influencer, that's a whole 'nother career, that's a whole job strategy, and I'm comfortable with that.
Right.
I'm comfortable with not being an influencer, and I'm comfortable with them wanting to be an actor.
Yeah. I think, like, you just have this tremendous security simply because you've had work where I think maybe if you aren't as secure of an actor, you may feel, like, threatened by it, you know what I mean? If you have that base of work where nobody's gonna really be questioning your acting ability or your knowledge of acting, it might be harder.
Yeah, I think in the current landscape of the industry with things just constantly changing and evolving and no one really honestly knowing what the hell is going on,
Right, exactly.
very silly to try to gatekeep anything because this is like a free for all. If you wanna go
Right.
do it, there's, like, literally no rules. There probably never really has been, and that's
Yeah,
what's maybe terrifying, but also exciting about doing this for a living. Like, we're making this up. This is the industry of make believe.
yeah. And we're probably 5 years away, Victoria, from you being interviewed by, like, an AI podcast host here, so maybe quicker.
Right? And I'm like, "Look, I can't control that. I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna keep making art. I'm just gonna keep going."
Oh, I love that. So, what's next for you? What's the best way for people to follow you? Is it Instagram? And then, what for somebody who's listening who wasn't able to see the film at Slamdance, what are your thoughts on when the pilot episode might be available?
Today is the last day you can actually go watch it on the Slam
Okay,
channel. So if you go to
got it.
slamdancechannel.com, you can actually go today and watch Vicky Wake
All right.
along with the other incredible episodes. If you're not listening to this today, you can honestly, victoriablade.com, that's a really great
Okay,
place to get current information on where Vicky's gonna go next. And then
okay.
Instagram, Victoria Blade on Instagram. I Instagram's my favorite. I don't know if how long that's gonna be around, but for right now, I like Instagram, yeah.
Love that. Victoria, Indie Film Podcast, love supporting other people's projects. Like I said, I feel like one of the reasons there's so many reasons why you've been successful, but one of them I think has been just a great coworker. I imagine a lot of actors had great experiences with you on set. They trusted you. So obviously you're caring about other people and their success. So is there a project or filmmaker that you wish more people knew about?
Ooh. Okay. I was gonna say Danny is my boyfriend, but I already shouted them
That's a good one.
Slam. So
Right.
just
Yeah, I'll
go
use
check
that.
them out. Danny is my boyfriend. They're on Instagram. I loved what they made. I'm gonna say the director of this horror feature that I'm doing. It's unannounced, so I can't tell you, like, the title,
That's fair.
but I'm gonna tell you the director. His name is Mike Trinati,
Okay.
and he is a horror writer-director. And
Yeah.
he did a short proof of concept, maybe I can tell you the title. He did a short proof of concept called Scratch that went around to all the festivals and did really well. I didn't
Nice.
even know him at the time, but he worked really hard on this proof of concept short, and it won a bunch of awards at all these horror festivals, and we're working on the feature, and I'm gonna play the lead in his feature version
Ooh,
of Scratch. So look him up, Mike Trinati. Hopefully, you could go find the short
okay,
version of Scratch.
okay.
I
Yeah, I'll look.
yeah.
Victoria, when you're working with a director like that, now that you have had experience as a director, like, what kind of questions are you asking of a director now that you've been on all sides of the table now? Has that given you further insight into trying to find somebody that you'd wanna work with?
Yeah, yeah, honestly, it's just getting to know them, like, with Mike,
Okay.
this director that was just a cold email, and then we met and started to get to know each other. it's honestly a mystical compatibility thing, like with any
Right,
relationship. It's hard to define why we just gel with certain people and why it's
right.
easier to communicate with some people than others. That's very mystical, but I would say being on the other side of the camera has really taught me just to really trust the director, that they
Hmm.
and to ask them questions about what their vision is and give them options when you're filming, to really not be afraid to make some big swings in opposite directions, because then in post, they have this really colorful palette that they can draw from to tell the story.
I love that so much. Victoria Blade, the most recent episodic award winner at Slamdance is Vicky Wakes Up. People should check out your website. There's so much. I was dying laughing just watching some of the clips there on your website of just different things. Alien Baby is also your first short is available for streaming. Also hilarious. And this has been so much fun talking with you about acting, writing, directing, and I'm so excited to see what's next. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and chatting with me.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for the thoughtful questions. I appreciate it.